Afghanistan, a country in the heart of Asia, is a land far removed from greenery and the calm of the sea. A place where chaos never ceases and faces remain unfamiliar with peace. Ruled by warlords, drug barons, spies, and bloodthirsty gangs, this land of 38 million people bears no resemblance to any other place on Earth. Because here, a dark force reigns supreme, its name, the Taliban. Gaining independence in 1919 under King Amanullah Khan, Afghanistan took steps toward modernization. However, due to internal conflicts and poor governance, it failed not only to modernize, but even to establish a stable state. The worst of its troubles began in 1978 with the Soviet invasion. The United States, seeing an opportunity, provided extensive support to resistance groups, both financially and ideologically. This assistance led to the Soviet retreat, but it also gave birth to extremist Islamic factions, eventually forming what we now know as the Taliban. In 1994, Mullah Muhammad Omar formally established the Taliban, and today, its leader is Maulawi Hibatullah Akhundzada. The group is believed to have over 200 fighters. Since its inception, the Taliban has repeatedly seized and lost control of the country. Most recently, in August 2021, they captured the capital, Kabul, and reinstated their rule. As a result, millions of Afghans fled their homeland in desperation. Why? Let's take a look at the restrictions imposed during the Taliban's previous reign. Under Taliban rule, numerous bans were enforced. Photography, cinema, all musical instruments except for the drum, billiards, chess, masks, alcohol, cassette tapes, videos, television, fireworks, statues, sewing catalogs, and even New Year's greeting cards. And it didn't stop there. A man without a beard of the required length could face a week in prison. Women were forbidden from singing, and if a woman's voice was heard outside her home during a celebration, the homeowner would be imprisoned. Shops had to close during prayer times, with violators facing whippings or imprisonment. Lateness for prayers could result in 3 days of jail time, with harsher punishments for repeat offenders. Those who missed a set number of Friday prayers were considered apostates and sentenced to death. Converting to another religion meant execution. A woman could not leave her home without a male guardian, and her face had to be fully covered. If she violated this rule, her house would be marked, her husband imprisoned, and she would face punishment. Before the Taliban took over, young girls braved the desert heat and freezing cold to attend school. Their determination was undeniable. Yet, whenever the Taliban seized power, they were stripped of their right to education. Now, with the Taliban back in control, what will happen next? During previous Taliban regimes, mass executions were widespread. According to United Nations reports, hundreds of thousands of civilians were executed due to these extreme laws. The United States, in its Cold War strategy, backed right-wing factions to counter communist influence. However, these radical religious groups have since destabilized the region, ensuring that Afghanistan has never found peace. The name Taliban means students, referring to young men educated in religious madrasas. These students were armed and trained by the US to resist the Soviet invasion. But the Taliban was not the only force in Afghanistan. The country's largest ethnic group, the Pashtuns, who make up around 40% of the population, largely support the Taliban. However, there were other powerful leaders as well. Ahmad Shah Massoud, a Tajik military leader from the Panjshir Valley, was a major force against both the Soviets and the Taliban. His stronghold remained impenetrable to both enemies, earning him the nickname the Lion of Panjshir. Another key figure was Uzbek General Rashid Dostum, supported by Turkey. At one point, Dostum and Massoud formed an alliance and took control of Kabul. However, in 2001, Massoud was assassinated by Taliban members disguised as journalists. His son has since taken up his mantle, while Dostum's forces still maintain a significant presence in the region. Afghanistan is a land of many ethnic groups, each with its own armed factions. Without a unified national identity, state authority remains weak. This brings us to one of the most critical aspects of Afghanistan's turmoil: its role as the world's largest drug producer. Afghanistan is the primary global source of opium, the key ingredient in heroin, producing 90% of the world's supply. The Taliban controls both its production and illegal distribution, making it one of the wealthiest extremist organizations in the world. Paradoxically, despite its religious facade, the Taliban finances itself largely through drug trafficking, The country is also home to vast untapped mineral resources worth over 3 trillion. Control over these resources is another key driver of internal conflict and power struggles. While the Taliban rules Kabul, it has only secured the loyalty of a fraction of the population. Its long-term survival remains uncertain. However, it is clear that the region will continue to be a battleground for influence, involving not just the Taliban, but also players like Pakistan, India, China, and Russia. Did the US lose in Afghanistan? Some journalists claim that America was defeated, but the truth is more complex. Afghanistan was never just America's war. The US does not operate under a strategy of achieving stability. It thrives on controlled chaos. Its foreign policy ensures that no country it intervenes in ever achieves sustainable peace. Let me illustrate this with a short story. A lawyer retired and passed his practice down to his son. A month later, the son proudly told his father, "Dad, I solved the case you worked on for 20 years. I must be a better lawyer than you." The father chuckled and replied, "No, son. The money I earned from that case over 20 years is what paid for your education." Similarly, the US does not seek to solve conflicts. It profits from them. It enters wars, destabilizes regions, and ensures ongoing disorder, feeding its own interests while leaving chaos behind.